Hi, this is Sam Lagana with the Los Angeles Rams. Whose house? You're listening to the Los Angeles Rams UK podcast. Undenied worldwide. The Los Angeles Rams. It doesn't get any better than this. Let's go Rams!
Good evening. Welcome to another episode of the LA Rams UK podcast. Episode 98. Giddy up, we are homeward bound. I'm John, and joining me as always is Andy. Andy, how's it going, mate?
I'm all right, thanks, mate. How are you?
I'm not bad. I'm happy that we've obviously got another entry in the W column, but nearly wasn't a win, was it?
Yeah, we made that game a lot harder than it had to be, but we came up clutch in the end, and that's all that matters. I've seen a few people this week arguing, the overtime rules are rubbish, and I kind of do agree with them. It feels wrong that we can come on, score, a walk-off touchdown, and that's it, without them even touching the ball. I do think that the NFL overtime rules do need to be changed, where both teams at least get one attempt. But, it's worked in our favour this week, whereas in past it always seems to be the one that goes against us. And fair play, thumbs up to Benny Sco for calling the right call with the coin.
Yeah, that was his big contribution to the game and really helped us. Despite the win in terms of the overtime rules in general, I do agree with you. I feel like each team should get minimum one possession. The first team score a touchdown, the other team needs to score a touchdown to continue the game. Is the way I think it should be. It shouldn't just be a case of, like you said, I know it obviously worked to our benefit this week, but in general, I feel like it should be more fair. Because that's what they do in college, isn't it? In the college football league, it's both teams are guaranteed a possession, and you basically need to outscore.
Yeah, I think theirs is weird, isn't it? They start on the opposing 25 or something, and it basically turns into like a shootout. I think something similar. Even if it was, you start on the 35-yard line and both teams have got, one possession, there's no punts or anything.
Yeah.
Because let's be honest, they're doing it in the playoffs where both teams are getting a possession. So why can't it be the same in the regular season?
Exactly. But it went in our benefit this week as we ran out 29-23 winners. But I mean, really, I think the phrase that could sum this game up, Andy, is basically a game of two halves, isn't it?
Oh, without a doubt, it was definitely a Jekyll and Hyde game. First half, we were pretty much all over them, had everything in control, and second half, we came out, I think, with a mentality of, we've won this game, and then obviously Stafford's injury kind of slowed us down, and it took us a while. But you've got to give thumbs up to the Colts as well. They came back second half, especially with the rookie quarterback. His head could have been down. He came out himself, battled away, and made some quite astonishing plays. And, for Anthony Richardson, I do think so far coming into this, the first few weeks, I think he's the rookie quarterback I'm most excited about in terms of his upside in the future. To me, he reminds me, he's got very much the arm talent of somebody like Josh Allen with the legs of Lamar Jackson, with that speed and the run capability. And I think, providing he keeps his, the coaching going well and everything, he does look like, in a few years, he could be one of the top 3 to 5 quarterbacks in the league.
Definitely. I mean, it's one of based off of the few games we've seen of him. That dual threat quarterback that he kind of brings. I agree. He does remind me of kind of Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson. He's potentially going to be quite dangerous in years to come. And I think for the Colts, they've got potentially a franchise quarterback there if they can keep his development on track. Where the coaches can kind of like stick with him, I guess. But that would allow them to then build the be able to then focus on like who's he's targeting out there and like bringing more weapons in. So it's one of those ones. I think the Colts have solved the issue of their quarterback, and they can now move forward and build upon that. But it is. I will actually say that I'm more excited about watching Richardson as I am to CJ Stroud, who's getting a lot of kind of credit. And that's not to say CJ Stroud is not a good rookie quarterback. I think Richardson's more exciting to watch.
He was very much coming out of the draft, a boom or bust sort of prospect, with 1 year of college. And at the moment, with the limited sample we've seen, as you say, yeah, he's definitely a boom, franchise quarterback of the future. But, again, we had our old head who, even injured, managed to just do enough to get us over the line. And
that's that. Like, talking about boom, we came boom out of the traps, on our first drive. Straight up, first possession, touchdown, Kyron Williams running up the middle. Came back out, second possession, boom, touchdown again, 79 yards. Next one, field goal, 40-yarder from Mayer, then a 54 from Mayer, and unfortunately then missed a field goal. And that field goal, when you think about it, well, both teams missed field goals, I guess, in the second quarter, but, that missed field goal essentially is what sent the game into overtime. We went in at half 20 zip, and then the Colts came out and put 23 up on the boards, to bring it tied, to take it into overtime. And then in overtime, obviously we got our possession, went 75 yards on 9 plays. And if there was going to be one player that was going to win us the game, I'm glad it was Puka Nacua, who just before this podcast we came on the air, has been announced once again as Rookie of the Week for the... Is it NFC or for the whole NFL? And actually,
I think it's for the whole NFL.
Is it?
Pepsi, the Rookie of the Week, so it's for the whole NFL.
The whole NFL. So that'll be the belt coming back to practice for Puka. But let's talk about the man again. How good does Puka Nacua look? Week 4, he's over 500 yards, breaking more records, and he finally gets a touchdown, and it's the touchdown that won us the game.
Yeah, the guy looks something really, really special. You've got to say at this point, you thought the first couple of weeks was, maybe it was a bit fluky. Once he's starting to, he's not getting the attention off defenses that, he maybe, they thought we don't need to worry about him. And, now you're seeing that he is getting, at times, a couple of those catches he made in that game, he was double teamed.
Yeah.
With very tight window play. So, the guy is just, I hate to say it at the moment, but he appears to be a superstar wide receiver for us, and obviously we're going to see, potentially cut back this week. What can McVay now scheme up to keep the two of them, on the field? And this is going to be a question, and I've seen a few fans and analysts saying basically, do they really need Cup to come back at the moment? If it ain't broke, don't fix it, sort of thing. And I do get where they're coming from, but you kind of think to yourself, if we can get them both on the field and they can both be producing like we know they're both capable of, this offense all of a sudden goes to, from a good defense to a special offense. This could really be a special offense with the two of them firing. My worry is, as you say, and I do get it, with Cup coming back, is he going to start losing out on targets and everything else? But, we'll just have to see what's going. But in terms of, Puka, he's definitely one. I think when the jerseys come back in, I think I am going to have to pick myself up the alternative jersey. But I think we may be waiting a few weeks before they come back, because I believe they've now been completely sold out. And he's... if you're not aware, folks, the Nacua jerseys are completely sold out. The only way you can buy them at this moment in time is if you basically visit the equipment store at SoFi Stadium. Yeah, and there's a few guys I think that are going out this week, I think. I think for the Eagles game, isn't there? I'm surprised people aren't tapping them up, to bring back the Nacua jerseys for them. But you said it yourself, Andy, and it's one of those ones that I want to say it myself. I want to say that the guy is a superstar wide receiver in the making. He has all the hallmarks and potential. From the draft, like you said a couple of weeks ago as well, that the reason he dropped so far was due to injuries. And if he'd stayed healthy, he'd have went a lot higher. It's absolutely good. It's like we've won out of that basically. In terms of Cup coming in, and like I said about the analysts are saying like, oh, they'll take targets away from him. Does Cup need to come back? I suppose there's two sides to this that you can look at. I think we all want Cup back, not just to have Cup back, but I think we're all, like salivating at the prospect of Nacua and Cup.
because, like you said, in the Colts game, he was getting double teamed. Can't double team Cup and Nacua now. So
Yeah.
I think that when we talked about week 1 and 2, 2 weeks ago, we said about how, like, oh, well, how are you going to fit the two of them in? We have to remember the Breakfast Club, as it's called, with Stafford and Cup, includes Nacua now because he asked to be involved. I guarantee you that McVay's going to be put in a position where he's going to have to find a way, because those guys have been working together. So you'll probably find that Cup and Nacua have been working out routes they can run together, as a dual threat. And in terms of our wide receiver core, we came into the season thinking, well, it's outside the Cup, it's not really that great, and it's totally flipped now because of the performances that Puka's been putting in. I mean, a couple of these catches were great. Weekend there was one, and I don't know if it was the first. I think it was the first quarter where he kind of tipped it up himself, and he was still running and never took his eyes off the ball and caught it and still kept going with it. The guy just, for me, I'm not saying we'd ever do this, but if the team moved Cup on, I wouldn't feel bad because we've got the potential there. Don't want Cup to go. Disclaimer, I'm not saying he's gone, but do you know what I mean? If we ever felt
I think I did ask you, was it last week or the week before? A lot of analysts were saying it was time for, is it time for the Rams to trade Cup for a potential first rounder? And you were categorically no, after thinking about it. And I think that's the way people are feeling at the moment. And, maybe that talk will continue, but, we've got to see the two of them out there together. Just because he's off IR doesn't mean to say McVay might chuck him straight in. It's just a case of he's got a 21-day window now to start. So, even though he has been practicing this week, it doesn't necessarily mean we're going to play him this week. It could be a case of McVay thinks, you know what, we'll get you back in practice. We'll slowly get you up to speed, slow time, make sure we don't re-aggravate the injury. It's working at the moment. We don't need to rush you back. In previous years, we'd be rushing him back because he'd be it's Cup or nothing. Now we've got that option of, you know what, have an extra week off, mate. We won't play you in the Eagles. Have a week off. Make sure you get yourself fit and healthy. We'll just slowly build you back up to speed.
Yep. I mean, there's like you said, there's absolutely no need to throw him in to anything now. If you take Puka out of the equation here, if we didn't have him, it would be a completely different story. We would be saying, no, we need Cup back. We need him back. Whereas now it's as much as we want to see these two guys together out there, lining up on the line of scrimmage, we want to see that happen with Cup fully 100% healthy. And I think the thing maybe to remember here, folks, is that just because Cup's back in practice doesn't mean he's playing. It just means he's in a position to return to footballing duties. So, like you said yourself, Andy, he might still he's not seen a snap at all this season. He's going to need time to get game ready in that respect. So I think we're in a good position that we don't have to rush him now, because we've got Puka out there, 9 catches for 163 yards. I seen the stats that he's actually outpaced Cup from 2021 so far in terms of his yardage. I'm not saying that he's going to, well, who knows? I'm not saying that means he's going to better Cup from that season, but I think it just it's good to see that, because it just shows you this guy is performing really well, and he's a guy that no one expected to just come out the traps like that. So it's incredible. But moving on from Puka, right? Because it seems like we're going to talk lots about him this season. Let's flip it to our man, the vet, behind under centre Stafford. How big are Stafford's cojones? Is it staying here? He came out absolute boom. First half looked brilliant. And let's see, what was his stats? He was 27 for 40 for 319 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. It's a decent Matt Stafford performance. 27 passes for 319 yards is pretty good. And then obviously he was just clutch, going down, for the game winning touchdown. How would you rate Stafford's performance against the Colts. And no, I know there's something you want to talk about. We'll come on to that. Let's just talk about his actual performance first.
Yeah, he played okay. I'm not going to say it was a vintage Stafford performance. It was an average performance that we kind of expect from him. A stupid turnover and some, superb throws. It was just one of them. It was just an average Stafford game, to be honest. I just, wish he'd sort of cut out these stupid interceptions that, he seems to. I think I saw his stat line for the season so far. It's 3 touchdowns to 5 interceptions. It's kind of like, he's basically 1.2 interceptions a game. It's kind of like, could do with him just turning that down a little bit. I know a couple of them, they haven't been his fault. A couple of them have been balls off receivers' hands and interceptions. But, there are still some which are boneheaded throws that you sort of sat there going, what were you looking at, mate? Because, where you threw it, there was nobody near. But, it was a good performance, especially with his injury, to keep fighting and to pushing. And, the end drive was very much Stafford. It was like 2-minute sort of, he's known for his fourth quarter comeback. That was very much all right. It was overtime, but it was very much a similar mold of a, fourth quarter style comeback. He's just, dink dunked and got us down. And, fair play to the guy. But like I say, Stafford's played well so far this season. I don't want to take anything away from him. He's been better than I think any of us really expected.
Yep,
but
definitely better than last season.
Yeah, but there are still a few things, that do worry me with him. That he is still throwing these stupid interceptions. You'd like to see him sometimes, where he's forcing balls again. For those deep shots. There's clear players underneath. It's not going to be your 20-yard thing, but if we're just getting 5-6 yards on a pass, on a second down, it gives us a more manageable third. And there has been a few of those occasions where you're looking and thinking, mate, what are you doing? You shouldn't have done that. There was a nice, the running back or the tight end was sat there at, the 8 yard, 8 yards out. You could have just dunked it onto him and got the first down. So that he's been a bit, like I say, he's played well. I'm not being, saying he's been crap. He hasn't. But I'd just like to see him, ball security and clean that side of his play up a little bit more. And just, I think it would help us a lot, if he just cleans that little side of him up.
Yeah. Yep. As you kind of briefly touched upon there, obviously within the game, like Stafford picked up an injury. Stafford is obviously known for kind of like, he's kind of battle hardened this, I guess, where like he'll can take a hit and he tries to play through injuries. We've seen it when he was at the Lions. He's famous for it. Was that drive it was against the Browns where he got like I think it was his shoulder he took like an injury to. It was sat one plane and came back in and then led them down the field. I mean, on one side, it's great that he's got that kind of like warrior element to him, but the one thing you wanted to touch upon here, Andy, is when a player is injured, should they be forced to leave the game? When it's clearly obvious that player is struggling, that player's injured, they shouldn't be there. And the precedent used to up was that, well, they'll do it for concussions, but why wouldn't they do it if a player is clearly hurt?
Yeah, we were watching a game live on Discord, I did put on, why he shouldn't be playing, and even a few people were saying, obviously in the fourth quarter, why are we still playing him? He clearly can't play. We're just, potentially making this injury worse. And, it doesn't look good for me. Yeah, I get both sides, it's that warrior spirit mentality. You keep going, but the other side of it is it doesn't look good for the league and the team that basically, we don't care. We're keeping you out there, For me personally, it should be like we said, much to head injuries, and if there's even a suspicion they're out, understandably so. But I do feel if a player is clearly as injured as Stafford was at that point, there should be something from the league, from New York, whatever, to the refs, basically saying you need to get that guy out. He's not capable of continuing, and get these players out. It needs to be. I think player safety needs to be changed even on that aspect. That it just looked horrible seeing the guy out there clearly struggling, clearly in a lot of pain. You know, we're lucky so far. It doesn't look like that. You know, he's aggravated the injury further, and he can keep going.
Yep.
But you know, it could have been the end of his season if if he'd took a particularly another bad hip or he'd have done some more damage. You know, it could have been the end rather than I know as much as we want the W and the win, but is the win worth it when you're going to potentially damage your players even more than they need to be?
No, it's not. To be honest with you, like as much as we want to win, you want your players to come through the game relatively unscathed. As a contact sport, you're going to pick up, like knocks and whatnot here and there. But like you said, I think it's luck basically that he didn't, injure himself even further because all they're taking was, like you said, one big hit, and that could have been him. Bear in mind this is a hip injury we're talking about, and they're like, oh, it's just a hip contusion he's got, and he's like, no, I'll be good to go, for this week. And it's like, what we're like when it comes to injuries, they'll say, yeah, no, he's fine, and then it's like, yeah, he's on IR. So it's like, don't put the players at risk if you can avoid it, basically. But I think maybe the other way to look at it is that, Brett Ripien is our backup quarterback. The way the Colts were coming back in the game, you don't know what's being said on the sidelines, basically. That, Stafford's probably saying, well, I want to go back. I know I'm fine. But, like, look, McVay and the staff are, like, looking like, brother, keep Stafford out there because we kind of need to win this game. And we're going in directions. So, like, you've got stuff like that could be creeping in. That's not to say that they're intentionally putting, someone at risk of it. But you know what I'm saying, the kind of things that can go through your mind on the sidelines because the win, is the be-all, end-all sometimes. To players and coaches, that's important because, it's a game about wins and losses, I guess.
But, all right, we won the game. We were lucky we won the game. But if we'd have lost this game and then it had come out, Stafford's done for a year, a lot of fans would be like, what the hell's the team doing? Why did you keep, playing? Even, like I say, even just in our Discord group during, the fourth, it was why Stafford out there. The guy should be benched, get him out of there before, there's a lot of people were saying, get him out of the game. It's ridiculous. He can't move. He can't do anything. He could barely walk. The guy was literally trying to play on one leg at times. It was ridiculous. And it was horrible to see. And you're just like, it's not a good advertisement for the league when they're all banging on about player safety, that they're just letting them carry on. And basically, if the guy had, broke his leg, would they have said, "Oh yeah, you can," the guy had come out the game. So what's a clear injury? Might I say personally for me, even the Joe Burrow thing, I don't think Joe Burrow should be allowed to play because he clearly can't move himself at the moment and he's struggling. The league has to come down. We saw it with what's his face, Jamal Adams in the Seahawks game. He's effing and blinding and kicking off at the the hospital. The medical staff basically saying, I'm fine, I can go. And they're like, no, you're not. You're out. You're finished. And he's had to now put out an apology, basically saying sorry for the way I acted with them. It was frustration that I wanted to play. And they and it should be a case of, if it needs to be, it goes to an independent panel and basically they say, yeah, you know what, mate, that guy's not fit to continue in this game. Get him out of there. Pull him.
Like on the concussion side, so we talked about concussions a lot last year. We deep dived about it, and the NFL do have technically like you said, an independent panel basically to assess that kind of thing, and they'll step in. They're at the games, and they'll step in and go, no, you're out. You've got a concussion. You're not playing. Get out. So that it shouldn't you were saying, it shouldn't just apply to just concussions. It should be across the board for general player safety and general health to protect them. At the end of the day, the goal of the league should be to give these players the chance to play for as long as they, want to and physically can. Not let them play to the point where they can't play anymore because they've banged themselves up that much that their bodies can't take it.
Yeah,
or they do damage that's then life limiting or whatever.
Yeah, you look at the likes of Andrew Luck, the amount of damage he took, and basically, he was like, I can't do this anymore. I've got to
Yeah.
retire for my own good. And it was because he was constantly getting played out in, tried out injured, not 100% fit, taking, blow after blow after blow, when he wasn't fully healthy. And, potentially now we're going to be doing the same with Stafford. If, depending on how bad this injury is, obviously the team's not really saying much.
Yeah.
But, if the guy's hobbling around and can barely walk in the game, it's kind of like, what he's doing, yeah, like I say, we all want to win games, but I'd rather, lose the game and make sure that the guy is healthy and not going to suffer long-term injuries rather than just digging in and pushing on regardless. And like I say, if it needs to come out of the club's hands and basically, it's like we said with the concussion doctors, have a second doctor there who's, specializes in just general injuries to basically say, yeah, you know what, guys, time for him to get out. He's not going to be out. He's not fit and capable of playing this game anymore. It's for his own safety.
Yep, that's it. Because one thing, we said it when we kind of summed up last year when we were in the off season. We needed 100% fit and healthy Matthew Stafford coming in this year and throughout this year because of how tough it can be and will be for us as the season progresses. So again, it's back to that. We need to keep him healthy. There's no other option here. So we'll just have to keep an eye on it, I guess, and see what happens. It'll be interesting to see how he gets on this coming week, I guess. But moving on to elsewhere in the offense, and I feel like there's one other player on our offense that deserves every bit. He needs the credit, and that's Kyren Williams. 25 carries for 103 yards and 2 touchdowns. He averaged about 4.12 a carry, but the man he grinded his way past his first 100-yard game. Talked to him a couple of times, Andy, about do you think he's good enough for RB1? But the man put up the numbers for us put the numbers up for us this week.
Yeah, he certainly did. He came in, played a perfect game for what you want out your running back. And like I said previously, I don't think he's ever running back one material. He's not ever going to be up there with the likes of your Bijan, Saquons, or he's a average running back at best. But that is good enough for our team with how we play. We don't need, it'd be great to have a superstar, a Bijan Robinson, someone like that, in the backfield.
Yeah.
But our team doesn't need that. We just need somebody who's going to consistently grind out 4 or 5 yards every time he touches the ball, and to set up the team perfectly for what we want to do, which is, the play action shots that we like to take, that McVay loves to play. But it was nice to see, in the end, it did feel as the game went on, especially in the second quarter, it felt like McVay was starting to come away from the run game again. And we were kind of like, what are you doing? It's been working, but luckily he managed to eventually swing himself back to doing it again. But, if that's a stat line that you can give us week in, week out or close to that, we'll take that easily. Fair play to the guy. He's... Like I've said before, he's not the most athletic running back. I think he's like the slowest running back in the league. I think that is official. It is like he is the slowest in terms of, his top speed and everything. But he's just one of them. He's just going to grind out the yards, and, that's what we want from a running back.
Well,
we don't need.
That's it. Because if you look at the last kind of 4 or 5 years, going back, with like Daniel Henderson, Malcolm Brown, for example. And Anderson, we've had guys on the ground that's their job is just to grind those yards out. And I think for me, see, as long as he can punch it in from 4 or 5 yards out, to get his end zone, that's all we need him to be able to do. To be able to do that we know, with for like 3rd and short or whatever like that, that we could turn to him to get us over the line. We're not looking for, like a Derrick Henry or a Christian McCaffrey or whatever, to just explode out the backfield. It'd be great to have a running back like that, don't get me wrong.
Oh, yeah.
But it's not the way McVay coaches, and I don't think he would know what to do with that kind of running back. He knows what to do with a running back to kind of grind out the yards. So I think he's he's a good addition to the team. And despite the fact they fumbled this week, his longest run was 20 yards as well. So he managed to break out 20 yards as part of his touchdown. Got a few catches as well. He's 4 games in, 3 starts, 245 yards, 5 touchdowns. It's not bad going, considering that we got rid of our supposed, RB1 and Cam Akers 2 weeks ago now. So I think we're not missing Cam Akers pretty much.
No,
that's what we're doing here.
I think Carol Williams is, to be honest, has given us. Like I've said before, he's not going to give us, those potential breakaway 20-yard, 30-yard runs that Akers could give us with his speed. But he seems to be consistently efficient. He's grinding that 5-6 yards every time he pretty much touches the ball. Which is like I say, is what McVay wants, because then he can do first down if he's grabbing 5-6 yards. Second down, that's opening up the play action shots, which is what McVay likes to do.
Yep.
It's keeping defenses honest that, okay, this could still be another run, so we better, potentially go for that. But on top of Kyren Williams, I do want to give a shout out for the offensive line, and especially Kevin Dotson this week.
Yeah, he got his first start this week. Yep,
stepped in, and to be honest, looked fantastic. I think I saw his stats from Pro Football Focus, and he had an 89.3 run blocking grade, which is the highest amongst all of our offensive linemen. And he was also the 6th highest offensive lineman this week in week 4 out of the whole of the league. We said last week, why is this guy not playing? And he's clearly got more talent than, other players that we've put in that position so far. And you know what? He comes in and didn't put a foot wrong, I felt, all game. He was never really, it wasn't one of them where you'd look at him and he's getting beat left, right. He was just solid, which is what we wanted. I feel now, because, again, he's a bigger guy, much like Steve Avila, having those bigger guys on the inside, we're not allowing the bull rush of, defensive tackles, defensive ends to push in, which is collapsing the pocket on Stafford, which is given against Stafford that time to be able to sit back and go and dissect the field and, play this off to, Nacua and even Atwell. But it's also opening up the run game, because all of a sudden those lanes are wide open that Williams can get through, and he can grind those yards out. So I want to give props to Dotson. The guy came in and just looked very, very solid. Again, this for us now is something we've not had for a while. It's a good problem now to have, is who are we going to play where again all of a sudden? If Jackson comes back healthy, is he going to replace Noteboom? Is Noteboom going to go back to right guard? Or are we just going to leave? We're starting to get to the point now where we're having offensive line problems in a good way of, who do we play where, rather than, oh crap, we've just got to plug.
Who can we play?
Yeah, plug gaps and pray. We're getting to the point now where we're having issues of what's our best lineup. And personally, for me, going forward, I think, given off what we saw this week, I think at the moment, Noteboom at left tackle, obviously Avila, Shelton, Dotson at right guard, and obviously Havenstein at right tackle, I think would be the best way going forward. I don't, as much as we criticise Noteboom, I don't think he had a bad game at left tackle. He was fairly solid. He wasn't really getting beat up like, we thought he would be, and he did look, I wasn't going to say he was great, but he just looked solid at left tackle. He didn't really look like he put a foot much wrong. And, it's nice now that we're all of a sudden, we're starting to have this problem of, it's of who to play for our best rather than who to play just to survive.
Yep. Flipping over the defense, there's one guy I want to talk about, but just in general, Andy, what did you think of the defense performance? Obviously in the first half they held them to 0 points. So let's focus on that as opposed to them letting 23 points in the second half. How do you feel the defense performed?
Again, much like the whole game, it was a defensive 2 halves. First half, outstanding. Second half, they just struggled. Again, it felt very much like the whole team walked in, like we said earlier, at half time, and basically like, job done, walk away, we've got this win, that's a W in our column. And, it felt very much like with the defense second half, very much went back to that soft shell zone, bend, don't break, and we were just giving them the easy yards.
Mhm.
We were just giving up those easy yards. But on the whole, stat lines weren't amazing outside of, obviously, again, Ernest Jones, our top tackler by a mile, and he got Ernest Jones got a sack as well and a tackle for loss. So fair play to the guy. Obviously, AD got himself another sack and 5 tackles. I think, is he now, was it second all-time tackler for us now?
He is, yeah. The Rams posted a few hours back. Nice graphical, franchise legend. He has moved to second in the all-time list for us for tackles. He's now on 505, having leapfrogged Alec Ogletree. He's still some way behind James Laurinaitis. He's got, James Laurinaitis is on 853, so he's still got a long way to go to become our all-time leading tackler. But who knows? With
Who knows
AD.
with the guy?
But it's Aaron Donald. He's the one I wanted to talk about. You touched upon it there. He recorded a sack this week, and if you didn't know, folks, that was his sack against his 30th team in the league. So there's only 2 more teams in the league that he has to get a sack against to have sacked a quarterback in every team, and one of them is the Eagles, who conveniently are our Week 5 opponents. That one's are the Jets. We need to wait. I think it's next season. We've got the Jets. I think it's away. They're one of our away opponents. I looked at it earlier on, and then started getting excited because I seen that we're playing the Jags away in 2025. So fingers crossed that could be a London game.
Hopefully, if
I got distracted. I was looking up for this to see when we're playing the Jets, and then I'd seen, it's 2025. Oh, it's the Jags. Oh, it's away, and then that's I lost track of what I was doing.
Yeah,
but Aaron Donald,
October game.
I know. Aaron Donald moves to 105.5 sacks in his career. Think he'll sack Hurts this week.
I'm hoping so. Yeah,
I
really am hoping so.
Hope so too. I would have
yeah.
liked it. Well, who knows? I mean, suppose we've got the Jets next year. It'd be nice to see him get a sack against Aaron Rodgers.
Again, yeah.
Again, so yep. And the last thing in terms of the team, kind of what to talk on for, we, are going to, deliberate who we're picking for Player of the Week. Last week, Tyler Higbee signed a contract extension, and at the time, it seemed a bit, I don't want to say controversial, but it was a bit kind of, on Discord, there was quite a bit of discussion about it. Andy, how do you feel about Higbee getting an extension in the first place?
Excuse me, sorry. I wasn't happy about it, if I'm being honest. I was one of those who was very much against not so much the extension, it was the amount that he got paid for his production. I don't felt it was worthy of the contract. He's a player to me that very much feels like he's on the decline. I think he's 30 this year, or is just about, or has turned 30. Yeah, I do know tight ends can go a little bit longer, but he's never been the most athletic guy. I just felt it was too much cash for my liking for a guy who, like I say, is declining and is also very injury prone as well at this point of his career. He never seems to even get through a game without having to come off at some point in the game for a rub down of a leg or, something or other. It just doesn't feel to me like it was good, usage of the funds. Personally, I'm hoping that, I might be proved wrong. In the last couple of weeks, he has kind of come out of his shell a little bit, and is being used a bit more. But, he turned 30 this January. So, come the end of the season, he's going to be in his 30, so technically we're paying him till he's 34 now. It's kind of, no. I don't quite agree I don't agree with it. I just, I feel, I say, he's on for me, he feels like he's on the decline. He's always injury prone. And I just feel for what we've paid him, we could have probably hit the, free agency next year and picked up a younger, more upside tight end. Than him. And obviously, beforehand there was the rumours the Rams are looking at Kyle Pitts. If we could have got somebody like that into the team, that would have been game changing in itself. But
Yeah,
He's been a good servant. I don't want to take anything away from the guy. He's been a good servant to us, and he's, but I just feel like I say he's just starting to decline and isn't the same player he was even a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I think you touched upon it there in your response about obviously like hitting up free agency in the off season. I think this is a thing that that I think every Rams fan is aware of, that in terms of the off season coming up, we've got a good chance to really go after some good talent to bring in and extending. No, like you said, no disrespect to Higby, has been a good servant for us, but like you said, he's kind of on the decline, and it's one of the ones you want to now be at least starting to think about who you're going to replace him with. He's not in one of those positions where he can play a little very long time. He's still like early in his career. Like I think for me, it's a position that I would like to have seen, is maybe kind of see if we could tap up like a free agent or whatever, to kind of add a bit more quality. I mean, he could have kept. He's still full extension. He still had another season or two.
No, this was his last season.
This was his last season, right? Okay.
Yeah, so he would have hit free agency at the end of the season.
See, I see. For me, that's what I would say. That it's no. I don't know what they're thinking, but I think for me, it's like I would have been prepared to kind of just let him move on this year, and whatever cap space there, that adds to the cap. Goods we can go after, bringing someone in if Kyle Pitts is available or whatever. It's been a good move for us.
Even in the room we've got now, for me, obviously, we've only had a small sample size, but for me, I feel that Davis Allen would be a perfect replacement for the guy we drafted. I honestly felt that this was going to be his last year, because I felt with Allen, very similar player, bit more athletically dynamic, really good catcher of the ball. I thought, yeah, you know what? We've drafted him. They're going to sit him behind Higbee for this year, get him, fully trained up, on the blocking side of being a tight end, to get that side of his skill up. He's, and then basically he'd step in next year as his replacement, and away we go. That was it. So to hear that he had been extended was kind of like, well, what was the point then of drafting Davis Allen? I know, we don't use traditionally a lot of two tight end sets where you'd say, okay, we need the guy. If we're going to use two tight end sets, it tends to be more, like I've said previously, the 12 personnel to block on the line rather than, like a lot of teams do, where they'll, they kind of have two good tight ends because they'll use them as glorified slot wide. One of them will be the blocker, one will be the glorified slot wide receiver. We don't tend to run a lot of that sort of schemage now. So for me, it just makes the Allen pick kind of a bit of a, that was a wasted pick potentially then as well. There's that to look at it as well, that, that pick could have gone somewhere else, that we maybe could have brought somebody in, to help even more elsewhere where we needed it, rather than what now feels like a luxury pick almost.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not great, but okay, what can we do? Suppose maybe.
Hopefully the guy that will ball out, and have an awesome season, and have a couple of 100-yard games, and everything can, we'll all be eating our words come the end of the season. You'll be a top 10 tight end, and everything will look rosy, and we'll eat these words, but it just doesn't feel to me like we're going to. It feels
I just think it's weird seeing him with short hair now. Every time I see him, I'm like, that. Who's that? Oh, it's Tyler Higbee. No, it's not Tyler Higbee. Tyler Higbee's got long hair. So it's weird seeing him with short hair.
Yeah, he must have, after he got paid, the first thing he must have done was gone and got a haircut for his
money for the haircut.
Yeah. But it is LA, mate. We all know it's expensive out there. So
it's not cheap in LA, so that's that. So it's just wrapping up our week 5, week 4 win over the Colts. Let's pretend we're going to deliberate about this, Andy. Who is the player of the week? And don't you dare say anybody other than Puka.
No.
Although Andy, as you said to me, you said you're not going to say anybody.
I'm not giving a name anymore, because every time, I don't know if you guys on the podcast have noticed this, I shout out a player, as potential player of the week for a good game, and then the week after they're absolutely rubbish, and they're absolutely. So I'm not going to do it anymore. I've said I'm finished. I am not called. So can I call Jalen Hurts as our player of the week and see if that the reverse psychology of that works?
Jalen Hurts is Andy's player of the week, folks, and I'll make sure I get that out in the socials. I'll say it. Let's not kid ourselves on here,
Yeah,
folks.
we know who it
We'll
is.
give a notable mention for Kyren Williams for his first 100-yard game, 2 touchdowns. Any other week, I think you would have probably leaned more towards him, but no. Puka Nacua, he was targeted 10 times, caught 9, 163 yards, game-winning touchdown. He got a game ball as well, which he nearly missed. I don't know if you've seen
Yes,
that.
I've seen
But
that. Yeah.
so there was the footage of McVay doing the whole game ball, but did you see the other side of it? That
Yeah.
when that started, the crew was still out in the field, and someone ran to get him, told him you need to get in, and like you had to he sprinted into the locker room. So
Yeah,
that's how
I
like
saw that.
McVay's like, oh, where's Miss Puka Nacua? And it looks like he just like runs out of nowhere. He wasn't standing in the locker room and just jumped forward. That was him like full pelt running in straight in there. So yep,
Yeah,
our
I
week
saw
4
that.
player of the week, folks, is Puka Nacua. So what else has been happening in the league? Andy, did you catch any of the other games this week?
Yeah, I caught a few games. I watched the Detroit Green Bay game on Thursday. Fair play. I think that was a big statement win for Detroit to come into Lambeau. Their fans took over Lambeau as well. There was more blue shirts than
Oh, it was
green shirts. It was fun, and you've got to give them credit. It was a full on team performance, and I hate to say it, but Goff threw his interception with his first throw of the ball, pretty much.
Yep.
But then bounced back and played a damn good game. And I'm not being funny, props to Goff. He actually looks like the quarterback that we sort of wanted when we drafted the guy. He seems to be playing really well for him, and I'm made up for the guy. I never had any bad blood towards him. I just felt like what we were doing. It was just a step too much for the guy, and
Yep.
as much as I hate to say it, not I'd hate to say it, but I think it'd be fantastic if you could get Detroit to the playoffs and potentially could you imagine Goff wins the Super Bowl? It would be kind of for the Lions, it would kind of be like, I don't know, it'd be a feel good story for me, given the narrative behind him and the team for a number of years.
Yeah.
Obviously it's still early days, but the guy is playing good football. I think at the moment, I think I saw the rankings just before, and it was basically, I can't remember which analyst it was for the NFL, but it was on the NFL website. But basically, I think Stafford's number 8, and they've got Goff at 9 at the top 10 quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Which is really nice. It's good to see for the guy. But like I say,
yeah. For anyone that watches the podcast on YouTube, you'll see that I'm actually repping, Jared Goff tonight in my throwback jersey. For me, like, I always tried to do my best to rally around Goff when he was with the Rams. Even for his shortcomings or whatnot, especially in that last year, I did my best to rally around him. We obviously got a bit of an upgrade and then won the Super Bowl. But for me, I feel like seeing him at the Lions, I feel like he's found where he fits in this league now. And he did fit at the Rams up to a point, but there was not enough progression for what he was getting paid, and that's why we moved him on. But he's found his place to the Lions. I'm happy to see him doing well there. I would like to see him get the Lions into the playoffs. I'd like to, I also don't want him. If we're up there, I don't want him winning over us. But if we're not in the playoffs, I'd like to see him, go as far as he can, and it would be really good for him. I think as well. But he's been to the Super Bowl. He's been on the losing side, so he's got the experience of getting there. It'd be, it would be like you said, a feel good kind of story, I guess, for him. To kind of take the Lions to the promised land, I guess.
They're just an exciting team at the moment. They're a fun team to watch, to be honest. And I think as a neutral, a lot of if you're not particularly rooting for a team, it's kind of one of them. I like watching their games because I do like how they play football, and even their coach. I like Dan Campbell as a coach. I do feel they're a good team. Obviously, I watched the London game. I'm sorry, but what the hell are the Falcons doing? They need to just be like, Ridder, bye-bye. You are just pathetic. You
He's
have got to
not
be
great
the
at all.
worst quarterback in the league. I was honestly shocked at that game that he came out the second half. I really was shocked in the second half that he came out, and it wasn't Taylor Heineke, because I just was like, this guy is pathetic, honestly. I'm not being funny. I honestly think you could put Brett Rippon in that team, and he could probably do a better job than what Ridder's doing.
He got a lot of hate I seen online over the weekend following his performance.
Yeah,
There.
the guy just can't read the field. He can't sense pressure in the pocket. He's not. It's not as if he's one of these game managers like where you can sort of if everything's going well around him, he can sort of. He just can't do anything, and it's just like what is he doing? What are the folk? That they've potentially got a decent side, especially in a very weak NFC South division. They were the favourites to win that their division at the beginning of the year because of how bad it is. Have rapidly just fallen away because they need to make that change. Not as if he's a first round pick where you'd be like, we've got to give him the time, we've got to keep going. He was a third round pick quarterback. It was a flyer. Just move on and let him go. Unless this is their plan of, well, we've got everything else in play. We've got Kyle Pitts, who they're just not using. I just don't understand. They've got a Drake London, who's a good wide receiver. They've got a decent, not going to say great defense, but they've got a decent defense. Obviously, they've got Bijan, and who's potentially going to be one of the best running backs for years to come. Unless this is their plan, is they're just thinking we'll just tank for a high draft pick and then replace them in the draft. But for me, it just feels like they need to just make a change and fast.
Yep. Look, just looking at the other scores in the league. I mean, there's a few other games I want to talk about briefly, but just looking at the scores, there was a lot of teams that didn't get into double digits. Looking at some of the scores, so obviously there was the London game 23-7 to the Jags. Ravens won 28-3. Titans won 27-3. Bucks won 26-9. Texans beat the Steelers 30-6. Seahawks beat the Giants 24-3, and the Cowboys beat the Patriots 38-3. There's a lot of teams that are struggling to score in this league, isn't there?
There was this week. It was very much a case of a lot of teams, and again, it was a lot of teams with a lot of quarterback questions coming into this year. And they really are. Obviously Tennessee beating Cincinnati 27-3. Nobody saw that coming. I think their season is rapidly imploding at this point now. And for a Super Bowl favorite, they could end up with a pretty damn high draft pick themselves if they don't get things sorted quickly.
Yep.
Another one I sort of watched, I think, sort of in the background was Buffalo, Miami.
Yep, that was one of the games I wanted to talk about after putting 70 points on the board last week.
Yeah, the Bills came out and made a real statement game there, and not only defensively as well. Sean McDermott, he's took over. The not only head coach, he's now the defensive coordinator. He's took over that role. The guy, has got that defense play, and they've still got Von Miller to come back as well. So that's all of a sudden. And to me, at the moment, if you're going to say first quarter, it's not technically quarters of the season anymore because we've got the extra game. But for me, over the first 4 weeks, outside of obviously, I'm going to be biased and say Puka is MVP. For me at the moment, I think Josh Allen is the forefront runner for MVP. This was a sheer statement now that week one was a complete disaster, and that he's come out since then absolutely firing and decimating teams left, right, and centre. And all of a sudden now they're a scary team again. And I suppose another one I want to highlight was it was a high scoring game, was the Denver Chicago game.
Well, what was being pegged as the Caleb Williams Bowl.
Yeah, I still think it, but you do have to say, both teams, surprisingly, it was one of them where both offenses were ticking, but the defenses for both sides were absolutely pathetic. And it was just who had the worst defense, it felt, this week. It was, Justin Fields actually had a decent game. He had a really good game. Russ Wilson had a particularly good game as well. It was just a case of the two. It wasn't so much, two worst off. It was the two worst defenses I felt in the league. And it was just like, who was looking to get to the end result. And then obviously, I suppose we have to talk about our opponents this week, the Eagles.
Yep.
Overtime scraped win against the Commanders.
And it was a great win. Let's not beat about the bush with that one, folks.
Yeah.
Commanders put a hell of a fight against them. So, and it was one of those ones, like, from what I've seen of the game, like kind of watching it via Red Zone, I wouldn't rule us out, for Colts potentially causing an upset based off of what I seen last week. But just before we move on to talk about the Eagles game, so that's what we're going to come up to next. The one thing I wanted to kind of mention about, it's going back to the London game, was the Funday football. I'm going to go at length to this, and I'll explain why in a wee minute. I'm going to go at length to this in a different episode, folks. But the first game, so this is based off of the whole next-gen stats technology that you've seen the last season or so, and what they've done is basically animated it, and they've used Toy Story as stuff, and it's streamed live on Disney+. When I first seen it, at first I thought this looks like badly rendered Madden, but the more I watched of it, it's actually quite interesting to watch the game that way, because it is you're watching computer generated images, so it's like watching them like someone play a video game. But I think it was when Lauren scrambled like 20 yards, and I seen a TikTok, and at the top of it was the live footage. The bottom half was Funday football, and it's quite accurate that in real time, seeing it actually kind of keep up with it. You can't obviously see the players' faces; they've all got visors on. But did you see it? Did you see any of this, Andy? Did you see even clips online of it? What did you think about it?
I've seen a few clips on Twitter, X, whatever the heck it's called this at the moment. I did
Twitter.
see. Still Twitter to me. It'll always be Twitter. But I've seen a few highlights, including that one that you said. Apparently, what I've read, what it was is they actually had sensors in their plates and sensors in their shoes as well to basically read the sensor. And so it's basically like sometimes they'll do for like green screen movies, with creatures and stuff. It's basically a similar technology, but it's basically in their equipment instead, which is what gives them the telemetrics to basically do what they were doing live. But it looked, I think for kids, it looked like I say, a really good way to introduce kids to, young children, sort of, infant school age for us and, lower juniors into a game of football that would probably have them interested.
Yep.
Fair play to them. We've had the Nickelodeon slime stuff for more teenagers and stuff. And, this is a good way, again, for the NFL to get, as I say, young kids interested in the game that way. But, it did look like at first like a badly drawn Madden game. It was like, what is this?
It didn't look good, but the more I think when you actually see it, kind of like how it's keeping up with, the play and all the kind of highlighting they're doing and, that. And that's, and let's not forget that Slinky the dog was your first down markers.
Oh, and we need that in the live game.
After there was penalties, he was moving back as well. So I mean, it was interesting to watch. I was away with the family for the weekend, and we were out and about at the time when the London game was on. And I packed up my wife and went at the shop, and I opened up Disney Plus to see what it looked like. And my 7-year-old, he was sitting in the kind of middle row in the middle. And he was like, "What's that you're watching, Dan?" And I explained it to him. He calls American football Rams because that's what he knows American football as, the Rams. Are you watching Rams or whatever? Not so it's Rams basically, but it's not the Rams. It's the two other teams playing. But it's Toy Story they're using. He's like, that's pretty cool. So what I'm actually going to do, folks, is sit to Andy before he came on the other night. Going to do a side episode because he's actually asked me to watch it. So what we're going to do, folks, is because he's basically within the target market. Basically, I'm going to watch it with my son, and we'll put an episode out to see, what a child actually thinks about Funday football. So stay tuned for that, folks. But moving on now, let's get on to previewing our Week 5 matchup, which sees us return to SoFi to take on the Philadelphia Eagles. Kickoff is at 9:05 UK time, and unfortunately, folks, Sky Sports have selected us for the game, so
Yeah.
no Game Pass, no days in. You're going to have to put up with Neil Reynolds unless you have alternative methods. And I'm not condoning any of those methods, but I may be looking at them. So, Andy, let's ignore the fact that we're going to have to endure. Well, first of all, we're going to have to miss the start of the game because they'll be too busy still showing, the game from the early window. How are you feeling going into this one? So we're basically 1-4 in our last 5 against the Eagles.
Optimistic that we can make this more of a competitive game than I thought at the start of the year. I honestly thought at the beginning of this year, this game would be we would get absolutely trounced. Pre-season, when I saw this, I thought, oh my God, we are going to get dominated.
Yeah.
But I don't feel that way anymore. I still feel it's going to be a loss for us, but I think it's going to be much like the Niners game, it's going to be a close loss, and we're going to be in this game a lot more than people think we are. Obviously, injuries dependent, I do feel we could be a lot more into this. The Eagles, for all they've wanted as the top, you've still got to remember they are 4-0. They've not lost a game yet, and they're not playing their best football. It feels like, this could either be the game where we can scrape it, or they're going to finally click all together and we're going to be made to look foolish, But I'm quietly optimistic that we can at least, much like I said, the Niners game, make this game look closer than it is. I do feel, as much as, we were mentioning earlier about, with Anthony Richardson, I feel them losing Shane Steichen to the Colts, they are missing that guy for Hertz, because Hertz doesn't look the same player he did last year. He doesn't look as dangerous. But, we are, again, much like we saw this week with Richardson, we always struggle against scrambling quarterbacks, and, this could be one of them games where potentially the guy could again run all over us, which is something, we were worried about last, with Richardson. It again feels the same, and, we're potentially going up against the best D-line in the NFL and the best O-line in the NFL, so I think it is going to still be a difficult game for us. But, if we can keep this game close and AD walks away with a sack, I'll be happy.
Yep, for me, like going into this one at the start of the season, I total write-off that there was no chance we were going to get anything out of this game. But just as I said, kind of just not long ago, having seen what I've seen in the Commanders game, I would say, never say never. But it's by no means going to be it's going to be a tough one. Pretty much, if we can get anything out of the game, I'll take it now, basically. But again, still probably expecting to come out of this one, on the losing side. But who knows?
Yeah,
you never know. Back at SoFi.
We could. Is it? I can't remember. Is it home or away?
It's home.
It's home. Okay, so at least we haven't got to go to the Link, which is quite a vicious place to go to at the best of times.
If this was away, I wouldn't even be saying, "No, never say never." Like I'm saying, it's a tough place to go to get anything.
Anything can happen on the day, But like we say, it just feels like, much like the Niners, it's a game that, if we can keep it close, you'll come out of the game positive rather than, it's a loss, but it's it was a good loss, as good as losses can be.
Yeah.
But we'll see. If this could be the breakout Puka Nacua. They put up 500 yards between the two of them, and
score 70 points.
Yeah, and everything looks
absolutely destroyed.
Yeah, and everything could look rosy. We'll just see. It's one of those games where I'm not going into the game expecting a W, and if we do get it, then it's going to be all the more sweeter.
Yep. You never know, I guess. Elsewhere in the league, we've got another international series game. So the Jags remain in London. They'll hop across to North London to go to the Tottenham Stadium, where they're taking on the Bills this week after kick-off. You'll be watching that one, Andy. And
Yeah, I'll be watching it.
How do you think that game will go?
Yeah, I'm going to be watching it, hopefully with any luck, providing nothing comes up between now and then. And to be honest, given what I saw between the two teams, you've got to say the Bills are the favourites for this one by a country mile.
Yeah.
Jacksonville haven't been bad, and Trevor Lawrence for them has played well, but they're still, I don't know, their defense just never seems to be a great defense. And, I feel if, it depends on how well the Bills travel, because I do feel sometimes that is a factor that people don't tie into, is the fact that, sometimes, a lot of them can still be jet lagged and a bit funky, because a lot of teams now, they don't come till Friday, or sometimes like we did last time we were over here, we didn't come till the Saturday morning, did we? It's a kind of a massive adjustment for players. So, that can, work in for these teams. But I just feel like the Bills are just too strong for the Jags personally, and it'll be, a comfortable win in the end for them.
It'll be interesting to see how it goes for the Jags, just like you said about how a lot of people kind of jet lag coming out here. So obviously the Jags have stayed here this week. They've not got that. But interesting to see how they came out. And I mean, I guess we've got a question that came up. It was for one of our off-season episodes about it's bringing up again the whole basically the Jags in London kind of scenario. And I suppose this is maybe one of these kind of tests about basing a team. Don't necessarily. I'm not saying necessarily at this moment permanently in London, but at least doing a few games back to back. How they can manage it. They've obviously got the advantage because they're here and they're able to do a full week prep, practice as they normally would. Keep it over here as opposed to doing the practice. We need to travel. Going to need a rest day because of the travel to adjust to the new time zone and then pick it up. So it'll be interesting to see how they come out, if they kind of come out and perform better because they've got the full week under the belt, and then obviously they'll be on bye next week. But I don't know, these ones that kind of raises the whole question about the whole permanent London team idea again. And to be honest, I don't want to go off on a rant about that because I've made my feelings well known in previous episodes about having a London team forced on us. It's different if you've got a team elsewhere in the league. If there's a UK team, I'd rather see them be as part of the European American Football League that seems to be really kind of starting to take off. That actually wrapped up last week. I want to say the other championship game last week, and they had over 30,000, and I think it was Duisburg. They had the final, and they basically had a pretty packed stadium for that. And they had quite a few expansion teams this year. So I mean, they've got a Paris team. They've got a team from Milan as well now. So they're really starting to expand. So if there was going to be any talk of a UK American football team, I'd rather see it be part of a European league, as opposed to NFL. That's just me. From my point of view is that everyone's got their teams. I'm not going to drop the Rams to support a UK team. I'll see them do well and all that, but I'm not going to go out my way to go support them if they're always going to be in London as well. I'm up here in Scotland, can't exactly commute to games.
No, can't afford to. Let's just put it that way.
Well, that's that. I think as UK fans, I don't know if I speak for anyone else because I've never been to a London game, despite wanting to get down there. I think the novelty is still there with international series, despite the fact we're best part 15 years or something down the line since the first one. The novelty's still there. It'll stay there as long as they don't make a permanent team. I think in London, that's where it'll be your team's probably more going to see the away team than the home team. So I think for me, it's good as it is. It's not broke. Don't fix it. You're expanding it. You've got the German games now. That's great. Keep it that way, folks.
No. I only live 60 miles from London, mate, and it's expensive for me to get to London to watch a game. So, I agree. I'd rather, if we're going to have a look, a team, I'd rather, like you said, mate, let them be in the NFL Europe and let the NFL use that, if needs be, as a filter to, link them as an associated team with an NFL team. A lot of our football teams do now, where that you'll have, say, Everton will be linked with a team. They've got a link with an Everton team in Chile. They're linked with teams in America. They've got teams linked up, in Germany. And I'd rather they did it that way, where the NFL Europe teams get matched, so to speak, with an actual NFL team. So they're like feeder clubs almost.
For any younger listeners out there that are like, what NFL Europe, what are you talking about? Google it, right? It started off as the World League of American Football. At first, they actually had American and a Canadian team, I want to say as well. But they then changed, and it was still World League, but it was all European teams. Then became NFL Europe, then NFL Europa, which was basically just NFL Germany, because there was only one team, Amsterdam, that wasn't in Germany in the end. And what they used to do is, in the off-season, NFL teams would send a number of designated players, basically the development players that you've got. They'd send them to Europe. They would then get drafted to a team in Europe, and they'd play 10 weeks worth of games, and then it was a bowl game. And it was great. It was amazing. I followed the Claymores up here in Scotland, and it was amazing getting to actually watch NFL-related American football, but it was my team, because it wasn't the Rams. It was a team in that league for me that I could then go and support in my own city. And it was amazing. And unfortunately, it just kind of like, they were getting basically average of like 10,000 fans. But the European American Football League is going, like I said, it's expanding. It'd be great to see if there could be a link. We've got the international pathway now.
Yeah.
So it'd be great for the NFL to tap upon that and to use that for the international players to actually get, involved in the game there. The other one I wanted to bring up was, you've probably seen this, Andy, the XFL and the USFL are merging now.
Yeah.
Basically, and I think they're just still going to be the XFL. But the XFL are technically an affiliate, partner for the NFL. And they're basically I would say the testing grounds for what the NFL want to do in terms of rules, because we've seen them look at potentially changing the kickoff rules and whatnot now. So they've got that. The XFL's kind of there for, I guess, the American-based players. It'd be good to see them, because they've got the international pathway, maybe tap into the European American Football League. Not necessarily like they've rebanned or anything like that, but at least we can send guys over, to you if you want. You can play them, because it plays through the summer. So it's one of those ones. Teams could technically send rookies out there if they really wanted to, because the season starts around about the start of June and it runs up until obviously September. So I mean, they potentially could send rookies out there as well as their development sides. But
you've also got now, like obviously in London, in Tottenham, you've got the NFL Academy as well.
That's it.
That there's more and more. So I do feel like that the NFL seems to be getting quite interested in Europe again now. They kind of had an interest for years, and they kind of waned off, and now they've started to get more and more interest. And could we potentially at some point in the future NFL World Games? Because they're starting to target Asia, Australia, all over the world now, that they're getting the foot in various places. Could we potentially see feeders in different areas? Maybe an NFL World Cup type scenario.
Who knows with the future holds? I think over the next, say, 10 years, I think Spain's the other market that they're looking to expand the international season to. I think in the next kind of 5 years there'll be an announcement that there'll be at least a game in Spain. And there will have been a game in Spain. And probably in the next 10 years, I reckon that there'll be some kind of Asian or Australian game will happen as well. I mean, the time zone, the time differences are absolutely chaotic. But maybe people in America will get a taste of their own medicine with that when, they're having to stay up till 1 a.m. to watch their team play.
Yeah.
But
let them suffer like we do.
Yeah, but I'm talking about other kind of like, franchises, feeder teams or not. Let's move on to look at how our own fantasy leagues are running. So the Sleep Deprivation Bowl 2023. Before I come here, I'll start off myself. I didn't have a great week. 2-2, got beat off of a winless team. I'm sitting 4th out of 5th. in the Isaac Bruce division. I'm not doing too good. I've got Chris for LA Rams UK OG coming up this week. He's not doing too good either. He's 1-3. Andy, I've already looked. How are you getting on?
Sucks, mate. Big time. Let's just go with that. Sucks. Like I'm 1-3, and it's just like seems to be every week I'm tinkering with my teams. I sort of like, okay, I've made a few signings, got rid of a few players, and then it seems to be whoever I'm getting rid of or whoever I'm signing is all of a sudden that week having a bad game, and it's just like I just can't win. So I've decided now I'm just going to stick with what I've got and just let it roll, and we'll just see what happens.
Yep, that's the kind of approach I usually tend to take. I'm like yourself, Andy. I find that when I drop a player, claim some off waivers who had a great week last week, guy I claimed has a terrible week, and the guy I've dropped has a breakout week.
Yeah.
So I just tend to try and stick with the guys I drafted as best as I can.
It also feels to me like everybody I seem to have drafted initially is now going down with injuries for the season. I drafted Aaron Rodgers and he lasted, what not even a series and went off injured. 4 plays and he went.
Yeah.
There's a few players now, that I've drafted and, in my initial draft, who've all basically finished for the season, with injuries. And it's like, I just can't catch a break. Like I said, last year I did really well with fantasy. This year it just completely has fell apart. Much like what happened to us last year. Since we're tracking a year behind, I have a good year and then a bad year the year after. So,
but just looking through the kind of fantasy league Sun and Vermeil conference, majority of teams are 2-2. Got the league leaders, Nick 1001. He's 3-1. He's leading the Isaac Bruce division, the Marshall Fault division. T-Boy, he's 3-1, leading that. Over in the McVeigh conference, Stormbuster, he's 3-1. And 4-0, guess he's a hammer. WHUFC Matt, he's 4-0. And Santa 7 Chelsea's 0-4. He's the only winless one throughout the league. The Vermeil conference seems quite very tight and close. A couple of people are starting to open up in the McVeigh conference. So we'll see how it goes. I don't have much hopes for myself. How this season's going to go. So I'm 2-2 so far, just like the Rams. But I'll probably end up with a worse season than the Rams. Put it that way, folks. Andy, anything else you want to bring up before we wrap up tonight?
No, mate. I think that we've pretty much covered everything, mate. We'll just, like we said, a hectic, busy week for us. I know when you said about we're going to do the podcast this week, I was like, now it's boring. There's nothing to talk about, So
people won't want to listen. We've got some positive things to talk about this week, so no one will want to listen.
Yeah, but. We move on with, I think, for the majority of us, if you'd have said, week 4, we, going into week 5, we'd be 500. I think a lot of us we'd all be very happy with where the team is at the moment.
Yeah.
Potentially, we were a player 2 away from maybe even being, 3-1 if things would have just gone our way. So, I'm still happy with how the season's going, and, I look forward to the game this week, and let's just see if we can get another upset. And
that's it. Like I said when we were talking about previewing the game, never say never. But I think we've seen enough that we said it in last week's episode. There's potential in this team, and there's potential that we didn't think was there going into this season. We've got the potential to see Puka Nacua break out again. We've got the potential for Cooper Kupp to come back. We've got the potential for Aaron Donald to pick up a sack against his first team. And, we've got the potential, to cause what would be seen as an upset and, take out the Eagles. So who knows? We just have to wait and see. Hopefully, nothing happens in the first, 20 minutes, and we can't see it because of, Sky Sports. Because they'd rather watch it. What is the early game actually this week? I didn't see it.
I don't do Sky Sports. I can't stand it, mate. So I don't look at who it is.
Myself. I've just seen people complaining.
Yeah, I was complaining because I originally when Dazem was supposed to be taking it over, there was supposed to be the no more blockouts because of the contract, but obviously Sky have moaned about it and basically got it back again.
that came up in Discord. I actually I got a free trial for Dazn this week to watch the Colts game.
Yeah.
I didn't when they migrated over. I basically just said no, cancel. Because I tried the app out and it was absolute garbage at the time. I thought I'm not
Yeah.
paying £150 if this is what you're putting out.
In fairness, I've been enjoying it. It's been quite a decent service, to be honest.
The same with fixed things. I've seen a few guys showing about you can have 4 games basically one go. That's pretty cool. Yeah, it's one of the ones I'll sit there and I'll when they do the kind of cheap games. I'll be interested to see when it comes to Thanksgiving week. Yeah, when it was Game Pass, they used to do like £1, and you can have access for a week. But if I say a week, right? But see, if you were to take it right before kickoff, you would have it for the next week's game as well.
Yeah, true.
So I'm looking forward to see if I can exploit it again.
No, don't blame me. Don't blame you. You watch someone from Dazen. It's probably listening to the podcast and going, "Ha, no, you're not." I'm gonna get that changed.
But, I mean, you said about the blackout thing. It came up in Discord because a few people were asking about it. And yeah, for anyone that doesn't know, Sky Sports have still got the blackout for the regular season games. There's only certain games, basically Thanksgiving, Monday Night Football, Thursday Night Football, and basically the playoffs and Super Bowl. I think it's all the things they can't black out. Everything else during the regular season, they can black out, which, to be honest, I mean, with football on this, and here in the UK, there's enough controversy and arguments about the whole Sky Sports blacking out, people being able to watch a sport. I don't know why it extends to NFL.
I'd rather they just cancelled Sky's contract and just let Dazen move forward with it. To be honest, it's a better freaking production. I'd rather. Yeah. I don't wish to watch Neil Reynolds for 3 hours. Thanks. Because the guy doesn't even know what he's talking about.
Yeah.
He's got to be the worst NFL analyst I've ever seen in my entire life because he just hasn't got a clue what he's talking about.
But don't worry, folks. Neil Reynolds will be advertising for his US trips where you can spend £10,000 to go and travel to a couple of NFL games with Neil Reynolds and have the honour of his company. Don't know if you've seen that, Andy. That's an actual thing.
Yeah.
So posted it in social media that you could pay to go to America with Neil Reynolds to watch the NFL. Interesting to see if anyone actually did it. But
I think it is fairly popular, isn't it? I think didn't they do it last year and it was quite popular. Quite a lot of people did go.
Some people need to get lobotomies then if that's
clearly
time and money.
Well, like you say, mate, we'll see what happens this week, and then hopefully week after for the next few weeks we've got a couple of easy games. So if we can walk out, like I said, out of this, with a potentially winning record, we're going to be happy.
Like you said, was about the Cardinals and the Steelers.
Yes.
After
the Eagles, we've got Cardinals, Steelers, Dallas, and then Green Bay before our bye. So, there are winnable games after. Obviously, Dallas is a tough game with how they're playing at the moment, but, it could be like card that they messed up against the Cardinals. There's every chance they could mess up against us.
Yeah, that's it. I think 2 weeks ago when I looked at those games, I felt different from the way I feel now.
Yeah,
I'm looking more at our schedule and thinking every game has the potential. Again, it's back to I think the theme of the season is potential because I keep saying that. Every game, there's a potential there. It's a winnable game. I'm not saying we will win it, but we could win it.
Mm-hmm. Games that you looked at that you were sort of, pre-season, you were looking at, and we all went through our predictions and went, yeah, that's a loss. Yeah, that's a loss. Oh, we're going to get thumped in that one. That's a, we don't have that, that feeling anymore. We can keep these games close, and we might lose, but it'll be a close game.
Yep. And like you said, we'll just see we'll take this game as it comes and we'll just see what happens. And we'll be back next week, folks, for episode 99. Hopefully, if I win, you never know. But that does us for tonight, folks. Don't forget, subscribe, get us on YouTube. You can watch the podcast on there. You can also watch it live when we actually record it. You can comment and get involved. Got a comment there that came in from I'm going to say it's Stinger, not Stinger. Like, thanks for podcast, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Hope you watch and enjoy it. For anyone else that does catch the podcast, thanks for giving us the time if you watch it. But of course, you can catch us on our usual audio kind of channels and whatnot. And, get us on social media at LA_Rams_UK. You get the link there to our link sheet. It's got our Discord group. Join the Discord server, sorry. Join the Discord server. There's plenty of chat on the go. And, of course, you can, if you've got a spare change, you can throw it away. Buys a coffee. But yeah, Andy, once again, mate, thanks for joining us, mate. Always a pleasure to talk about the Rams with you.
Yep, likewise, mate. And let's see, let's positive moods, and let's see if we can get the upset win and, really get the conversations about the team. Because I have one thing I will say before we go, I have noticed a lot of analysts now are looking at the Rams at a different light. They're kind of like, ooh, these guys could sneak into the playoffs. They could be a playoffs caliber team. They are playing, and that is, considering the doom and gloom that everybody had at the start of the year, it's a good step forward.
It is, and let's end on that. A good positive way to end the podcast, because we are being as positive as we can be, folks. So that about does it, folks. We'll catch you next week to go over the week 5, hopefully win, against the Eagles. Catch you all, folks. Good night.